It might seem surprising at first, but compassion is one of the most powerful and potent forces that we can cultivate. It has the power to transform our lives and the lives of those around us. But what exactly is compassion, and how do we really truly embody it? I'm Dr. Alan Johnson, and on this channel I talk about the mind, well-being, and change for thinkers, makers, and everyone in between. In this video, I want to dive deep into this concept of compassion. We'll explore some common misconceptions around compassion, such as the belief that compassion means taking on the pain and suffering of others. We'll also look at the insights of Pema Chödrön, a renowned Buddhist teacher who offers really important and profound reflections on what true compassion really means. And stay to the end because we will look at how we can overcome the barriers that we might encounter to sharing compassion with others, and look at some practical tips and tools for cultivating more compassion in our lives. And by the end of this video, you'll have a much clearer understanding of how to practice compassion in a way that's sustainable and empowering, both for yourself and for those around you. Compassion is the ability to acknowledge the existence of suffering, both in ourselves and in others, without necessarily taking that suffering on. So compassion is about connection and empathy, but not self-sacrifice. And what do I mean by this? And why is this distinction important? Well, many people think that compassion means that you have to feel what others feel to the point that their pain becomes your pain, that you need to take on the pain of others. While empathy is a component of compassion, compassion isn't about absorbing others' suffering. Compassion is about recognizing the existence of pain and suffering, but it also includes healthy boundaries that allow us to acknowledge the existence of suffering in others without becoming overwhelmed by it. Very simply put, compassion is a balance between emotional connection and maintaining your own personal well-being. It's not about pity or feeling superior to others who suffer. It's about recognizing our shared humanity. Pema Chödrön, a well-known Buddhist nun and teacher, has written on compassion a lot. And she's one of the first Western women to have been fully ordained in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And her teachings have inspired millions. She offers a really powerful perspective on compassion. She says, true compassion does not come from wanting to help out those less fortunate than ourselves, but from realizing our kinship with all beings. This quote challenges that common notion that compassion is about charity or doing something just for those that are less fortunate. Instead, she says that compassion is about recognizing our interconnectedness with everyone and everything. So compassion is rooted in our shared humanity and in our interconnectedness. It's not about feeling sorry for others or feeling superior to others, but about recognizing that their pain is part of the collective experience of humanity. Despite our best intentions, there are a number of things that can get in the way of us expressing compassion and sharing it with others. Stress, for example, is a major barrier. When we are overwhelmed or burnt out, it is hard to find that emotional energy to see and acknowledge the pain of others. This is one of the reasons why self-care isn't something that is greedy or self-serving. Instead, self-care, looking after the needs of ourselves, is important because it enables us to show up fully and compassionately for those around us. Personal biases and judgments can also get in the way of compassion. If we see someone as inherently undeserving of our compassion, it becomes intrinsically difficult to be able to share compassion with them. Think about a time when you struggled to feel compassion for someone. Was it because you were feeling stressed or burnt out? Or maybe you had a preconceived notion about that person's situation. These are all natural human reactions, but they can become hindrances to sharing compassion with others. And the first step to overcoming these barriers is simply awareness, being aware of what is blocking or limiting our compassion. When we're aware of what's blocking our compassion, we can begin to address it. Stress management techniques like mindfulness and self-care are essential. And the links below, you will find links to my online course on Udemy called Integrative Meditation Level 1, which will help you begin to develop your own meditation practice as a form of self-care and as a way to continue to grow and develop self-awareness. As we continue to learn to come into a different relationship with the world around us, recognizing the shared humanity and the inherent pain and suffering in the shared humanity around us, it's also important to challenge our inherent biases and remind ourselves that everyone is deserving of compassion regardless of their circumstances. Compassion reminds us that we are all connected and that the inherent feature of living a human experience is suffering. And by recognizing that in others, we can begin to create change in the world. It's easy to confuse compassion with sympathy, and I want to pause a moment here to reflect on the distinctions between them. Sympathy often involves a sense of pity for someone else's situation, and it can lead to a form of separation or sort of a hierarchy. I feel bad for you because I'm not in your situation. Compassion, on the other hand, is about feeling with someone, not for them. It's about understanding their pain without letting it consume you. When we take on others' suffering as our own, it can really quickly lead to emotional burnout. We might think that we're helping by fully immersing ourselves in the suffering of someone else, but this can actually be harmful to both parties. It's like trying to save someone from drowning by jumping in with them, but without a life jacket. As they always say, as a plane is about to take off, you should put your oxygen mask on first before helping those around you. That's not being greedy or self-serving. It's about making sure that you have the resources that you need to be able to help those around you who might need help and might need compassion. Healthy compassion involves being present and supportive, but also maintaining your own emotional boundaries. It's okay to feel empathy, but it's also important to have boundaries, to not take on the pain of others. It's one thing to recognize that pain and suffering exists in all humans. Indeed, it's what connects all of us. But we don't need to take on the pain of others to feel compassion for them. And there are times when compassion can really be put to the test. For example, when we're in conflict with someone, it's really hard to feel compassion toward them. Or when someone repeatedly makes what we perceive to be as poor choices, we might find it difficult to feel compassion for them. I would suggest to you that these challenging experiences where it becomes difficult to feel compassion are actually when we begin to learn most about what true compassion is. Let's look at an example of this. Imagine a situation where a friend or family member or loved one keeps making the same bad decision despite your efforts to help them. It's easy to become frustrated with them, to lose patience with them, or consider a scenario where someone's wronged you, and it can be incredibly challenging to remain compassionate in the face of anger or hurt. In these moments, it's important to remember that compassion doesn't mean condoning someone else's attitudes or enabling their negative behaviors. Instead, compassion is about understanding their pain and responding with kindness, even if that means setting boundaries as well, because compassion can exist alongside boundaries and firmness. You can care about someone, acknowledging and recognizing their pain, while also holding them accountable. In our lives, true compassion often expresses itself as a form of service. When we feel compassion for others, it naturally inspires us to take action, whether it's through volunteering, helping friends in need, or simply being there for someone who's struggling. Think about the way that you already express compassion in your life. Maybe you help out an older neighbor, or perhaps you're involved in community service or a church group. These are all acts of compassion in action. Service doesn't have to be grand. You don't have to go to the other side of the world to build houses or to purify water for 6 months. Small actions of kindness can have a huge impact. And opportunities to express compassion are all around us, often in small, everyday interactions. Compassion can be something as simple as listening to a friend who's having a tough day, offering a kind word to a stranger, or being patient with someone who's clearly struggling. I'm going to share with you 4 practical ways that you can begin to cultivate compassion in your life and express compassion in your day-to-day experiences. The first of these might seem quite simple, but it is incredibly valuable, and it's active listening. Truly listening when someone is speaking to you without interrupting or offering solutions. So often when we are speaking to others, it's really just an elaborate dance of waiting for the other person to finish speaking so we can have our turn to speak. But what happens if we approach conversations in a compassionate way? Sometimes just being heard is enough. And sometimes just showing up for someone else through listening to them is a profoundly transformative form of compassion. As I've mentioned already, volunteering is a really valuable and enriching way that we can bring more compassion into the world. Mindful presence is the third way that you can begin to cultivate more compassion in your life. It's being fully present when you're with others. So I've mentioned already that we can listen to others, and that's a form of compassion. But it's also a form of compassion to be fully ourselves when we are with others. Not hiding parts of ourselves, not trying to show what we think others expect from us, but showing up with presence and compassionately showing others who we really are, because that's going to give them a vital clue that they are able to show up in their authentic way with you as well. And lastly, and this is a fun one, random acts of kindness. Small gestures like paying for someone's coffee in the line behind you or leaving a positive note for a coworker can really brighten someone's day. And I offer this as an invitation to you. Is there a small random act of kindness that you can do for someone today? It doesn't need to cost any money, but a random act of kindness can have a huge impact on someone else's day and can also begin to cultivate your awareness of what compassion means to you. I want to invite you to take some time today to reflect on how you can incorporate more compassion into your life, whether it's through small acts of kindness or volunteering or simply being more mindful in your interactions with others. Every moment of compassion that you share with the world can make a huge difference. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who could maybe experience some more compassion in their own life. And don't forget to subscribe for more content on mindfulness, personal growth, and emotional well-being. As we all go through life, let's remember that compassion isn't just about taking on the pain of others. Compassion is about recognizing our shared humanity and responding to that with kindness and with understanding. And in doing so, bit by bit, moment by moment, we are able to contribute to creating a more caring and connected world.